Welcome. Welcome to you all, whether you're here in person or joining us online this morning. I hope you've all been enjoying the Jubilee celebrations. I even found myself at a party. Don't know how that happened, really. I'd like to open with some words by Maureen Killoran. Welcome, you who come in need of healing. You who are confused or have been betrayed. Welcome, with your problems and your pain. Welcome to your joys and your wanderings. Welcome your need to hope, your longing for assurance. Instead of answers, here may you find safety in your questions. Instead of promises, may you find community for your struggles. People with hands and hearts to join you in engaging the challenges and changes of our day. Words by Maureen Killoran. So our theme for June is healing. And this month's services will all touch on that theme in one way or another. It's a huge and important subject, and I think it's an important part of any spiritual tradition and any spiritual life. And as today is World Environment Day, which may have gone unnoticed given all else that's been going on, I've chosen to focus on healing Earth for this service, which is both a description, because the Earth is always healing us, and also an action, because we also can be engaged in healing the Earth. It's a potentially beautiful, creative relationship, one that at its best is mutually nourishing and sustaining, if we let it be. So let's begin by lighting our chalice candle, as is our custom. It's a symbol of our free religious faith. And those of you at home, please do join me, if you would like to, in lighting a candle at home. New candle. I watched Poppy's recording last week and realised that I think the wick was right down to the bottom. She could hardly light it, so I'll put a new one in. We are the children of the earth, born here, made of the mud and the air, the water and the fire, and the mystery. To the earth we will return. For the flourishing of this essential and nurturing relationship, we light this flame now for the healing of ourselves and the healing of the earth. And let's sing our first hymn this morning, which is in the purple hymn books, and it's number 43, Gather the Spirit. That's hymn number 43 in the purple hymn book. And of course, as usual, the words will be on the screen as well. I'd like to invite you now to come into a time of prayer. And I'd like to offer a prayer written by John Saxon. Source of all life, all love, all hope, known by many names. We don't know who or what you are, or even whether you can be called who or what. Our words fail us. Our minds fail us when we ponder the enormity, diversity, complexity, wonder, and beauty of the universe and this world. And yet we sense, more than we know, that our lives are part of a larger life, that we are indeed connected with everyone and everything, and that there is something both immanent and transcendent that nurtures and sustains our lives and life itself. Something that calls us and all life to greater wholeness and harmony. We give thanks today for all the gifts and blessings of life, for this day, for the beauty and wonder and mystery of life, for friends and family, for health and work, for opportunities to learn and love and grow, for the love and support of others in times of illness or despair. But we remember too that others here in this room, in this city, and around the world live in poverty or hunger, fear or illness, isolation or violence, or economic insecurity. In the silence of this space, and in the silence of our hearts, may we hear the call to a wider perspective and a deeper resolve. May we live with greater compassion and care for ourselves, for others, and creation. May we touch each other more deeply, hear each other more clearly, and see each other's joys and sorrows as our own. May we strive to be and become more than we are, more loving, more forgiving, more kind, more honest, more open, more connected, more whole. May we heal and be healed. May we face the uncertainties and tragedies of life with hope and faith and courage, knowing that life is good and that we are not alone. And let us take a few moments in silence for our hearts to speak silently all the prayers of our lives, our soul's greatest joys and deepest sorrows. May our hearts reach inwards and outwards to all those in need of care and love and support at this time, wherever they may be. Amen. Our story this morning is a story I'm sure you will be familiar with, but I think it's a lovely story. That's why I've chosen it, and a good reminder. So I won't say any more about it, but Sheila will read it for us.
This is the starfish story, adapted from The Star Thrower by Loren Eiseley. Once upon a time, there was an old man who used to go to the ocean to do his writing. He had a habit of walking on the beach every morning before he began his work. Early one morning, he was walking along the shore after a big storm had passed and found the vast beach littered with starfish as far as the eye could see, stretching in both directions. Off in the distance, the old man noticed a small boy approaching. As the boy walked, he paused every so often, and as he grew closer, the man could see that he was occasionally bending down to pick up an object and throw it into the sea. The boy came closer still, and the man called out, "Good morning. May I ask, what is it that you are doing?" The young boy paused, looked up and replied, "Throwing starfish into the ocean. The tide has washed them up onto the beach, and they can't return to the sea by themselves. When the sun gets high, they will die unless I throw them back into the water." The old man replied, "But there must be tens of thousands of starfish on this beach. I'm afraid you won't really be able to make much of a difference." The boy bent down, picked up yet another starfish and threw it as far as he could into the ocean. Then he turned, smiled and said, "It made a difference to that one."
Thank you very much, Sheila, for reading that so beautifully and also at such short notice. Thank you. I'm going to share a reading now with you by Elizabeth Tarbox. Elizabeth Tarbox was British, although she moved to the United States, where she was a Unitarian Universalist minister there. And she's written quite a lot of contemplations, I suppose. I enjoy her writing. Sadly, she's no longer with us. Each day, I'm newly reminded of my unworthiness. A dozen thoughts misspoken. Another day when the good I do falls short of the good that I could do. Myriad small interchanges. Moments of sharing that strain to breaking point my desire to be generous, helpful, and kind. Months of careful work lost by a moment's impatience, a careless word. But when I'm here, at the edge of creation, breaking with the small tide over the sand, the need to do good rolls away. The question of what is right diminishes to insignificance and is easily borne away by the tiny waves. Here, where no words are spoken, none are misspoken. I am with the broken stubble of the marsh grass that holds on through the wrecking wind and the burning flood. I am with the grains that mould themselves around everything, accepting even so unworthy a foot as mine, holding and shaping it until it feels that it belongs. I stand somewhere between truth and vision, and what I don't know ceases to embarrass me. Because what I do know is that the water feels gentle, like a lover's touch, and the sand welcomes it. What I have done or failed to do has left no noticeable mark on creation. What I do or don't do is of no moment now. Now I am here and grateful to be touched, to be calmed and healed by the immense pattern of the universe. And when I die, it will be an honour for my blood to return to the sea and my bones to become the sand. Reassured, I am called back to life, to another day. Words by Elizabeth Tarbox, and I think those two readings somehow give us two sides of the same coin, that what we do matters and makes a difference, however small, and that ultimately it doesn't matter. So let's sing Spirit of Life.
Spirit
Our friend Karen Gasley, who some of you will know and remember, who lives in Totnes, and for several months co-hosted our Zoom services for us very kindly, recently wrote an article in the National Unitarian Fellowship newsletter. In fact, that issue was mostly written by members of Plymouth congregation, some of whom are with us today. Karen wrote an excellent piece called Loving the Land, in which she described her campaign to protect a communal strip of land at the back of her house. She worked with a neighbour who was studying permaculture, and Karen undertook a course in scything herself in order to keep the land tidy in a way that would be less damaging for all the wildlife that lived there. She writes that as she scythed, she says, I found I could see individual spiders and beetles moving through the grass, and I would pause in my swing to allow them to run out of range as I went along. What grew in me during those months was a loving connection for all the living beings in the field: voles, field mice, bats, birds, insects, and toads. A loving connection. Some of you know that I have recently been on holiday in the Isle of Lewis and Harris in the Outer Hebrides. I felt as though I had been in a different world. Maybe I had. I didn't see a huge amount of wildlife, to be honest. The eagles and the otters and the whales all managed to elude me, though a rib boat trip did take me and my friend out into the choppy seas around rocky islands where there were seals and cormorants and shags and gannets and kittiwakes and fulmars, all in abundance. Gazing into the wide open yellow mouth of a shag through my binoculars was a memorable moment. But what I really fell in love with was the light and the space, the skies and the quietness, the shallow turquoise waters and the golden sandy beaches, the feeling of wide, watery, windy openness. It was very healing. This week, it's been back to earth, as the saying goes. As I've reconnected with work and domesticity and also my allotment, and there were some surprises in store there, including a wasp's nest that had established itself in my shed without asking, and some remarkably red and sweet, delicious strawberries on a nicer note. But mostly, the most satisfying thing I found was to finally shovel my own compost made from my own raw waste food and card and whatever else went in there, finally onto a new uncovered bed and plant fresh bean plants into it. There was something tremendously rewarding in that cycle of events and feeling I had been part of it. To me, the natural world, especially when it's wild, but also when it's cultivated, is life in the raw. It is life living itself. And it seems to call us to join it. There's some place deep, I think, within each of us, a nearly forgotten place, where we too are simply life living itself. And in those precious moments of interaction, whether it's with a spider in a field or a bean plant on an allotment, or or a cormorant in the Hebrides, there is recognition, something of deep calling unto deep, as the Bible puts it, and healing in that moment takes place. The 12th century mystic Hildegard of Bingen spoke of viriditas, or greenness. And the author Caspar del Kuhl writes that she used that word both to mean literally the greenness of plants and their amazing ability to spontaneously put forth leaves and flowers and fruits and seeds, but she also used that word to express the very same life force inside each one of us. Our own innate capacity to grow, to give birth, to heal, and of course to die. Is that what we recognize? That very same life force in a wasp, even, or a strawberry, or a gannet, in me, in you. When we see it and when we feel it, something in us shifts. A primeval common bond is awakened within us. A bond with the source of all. This earth, this home we have been given, is our source of beauty, of water, of food, of medicine, of minerals and materials. It is the harnesser of the sun's energy. It is the great giver and also destroyer. It is the ultimate recycler. And so what is our part here? What is our part in it, in that wonderful process? What can we do to positively contribute to the healing of our earth and our fellow creatures in return for all that they give us? If you think of the earth as being spirit-filled, as I do, or even if you don't, perhaps the most fundamental and the simplest gift we can give the earth, and to anything really, is to love it, to notice it, appreciate it, be kind to it, be grateful for it, and above all, not to cause it harm. The earth can heal itself, but like anything, like you and like me, it flourishes better when it's cared for, when it's recognized, and when it's treated with consideration. And like all of us, like me and like you, it can be harmed by neglect, by carelessness, by exploitation. So the least we can do, and maybe the best we can do, is to love it in whatever way we can. Whether that's by throwing a stranded starfish back into the sea, or tending an abandoned strip of land at the back of our house, or whatever is in your gift to give. Because what the earth needs is what we all need in order to heal. Space, time with no demands made of us, no coercion or obligation, time to rest, opportunity to simply be. What we and the earth may need to heal is gentleness, consideration, listening, watching, being. what we all benefit most from is care, compassion, love. Yesterday, I found myself looking again at the Isle of Lewis and Harris, this time on Google Earth. It's not quite the same, but nevertheless, it's amazing to be able to look down on somewhere you've been. And I was able to spot the distinctive shape of the standing stones at Callanish, and I could hover over the sweeping white sands of Uig Bay and zoom in on the ancient church of St. Clement's in Roddell at the far southeast tip of Harris. And I felt somehow transported back to them again. I feel that the island has got into my blood. A part of me hasn't left. I think I fell in love with it. Karen's campaign to protect and nurture her strip of land did not have a very happy ending, although it's not the end. But she writes, just as I was ready to stop scything and let the field rest through the winter, it transpired that the Residents' Association had arranged maintenance of the field by a contractor. Although I tried to stop this, it was to no avail, and was left with the shock of watching people with no connection to the land, much less love for its inhabitants, convert the entire field into the model of a municipal park using ride-on mowers and strimmers. Many of the insects and small mammals that I had loved would have been injured, killed by blades, or left without habitat. She will, of course, continue to do what she can to change attitudes, and closes by suggesting that what will heal us and the natural world anything, more than anything, is a growth in our capacity to love, to take care, to connect. Healing the earth and ourselves may be rooted in our recognition of the greenness, as Hildegard of Bingen would have said, the viriditas, that same life force which is inside each of us. It is our innate capacity to grow, to give birth, to heal, and to die. May we notice it. May it be so. And our final hymn this morning is number 216, which is Wide Green World. 216.
Moon-tugged oceans rising.
I'd like to close with a poem by the Reverend Nancy Schaffer. And although it contains examples that are quite close to my heart and also close to this, what we've been talking about, I think it also opens up the subject of healing a little further, and we'll take that forward in coming weeks. How shall we mend you, sweet soul? What shall we use? And how is it in the first place you've come to be torn? Come, sit. Come, tell me. We will find a way to mend you. I would offer you so much, sweet soul. This banana, sliced in rounds of palest yellow atop hot cereal, or these raisins scattered through it, if you'd rather. Would offer cellos in the background, singing melodies Vivaldi heard and wrote for us to keep. Would hold out to you, sweet soul, everything coloured blue or lavender or light green. All of this I would offer you. All of it, or any piece of it, might mend you. I would offer you, sweet soul, this chair by the window, this sunlight on the floor, and the cat asleep in it. I would offer you my silence, my presence, all this love I have, and my sorrow you've become torn. How shall we mend you, sweet soul? With these, I think, gently we can begin. We will mend you with a rocking chair, some raisins, a cat, a field of lavender, beginning now to bloom. We will mend you with songs remembered entirely the first time ever they are heard. We will mend you with pieces of your own sweet self, sweet soul, with what you've taught from the very beginning. A poem by Nancy Schaffer.